This is Nightline, and I'm Adrian Seet. The headlines. 3 industry sectors allowed to hire foreign workers from 15 countries. And cooking oil price to come down within the next 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us. The government has decided to allow migrant workers from 15 countries to be employed in the country's manufacturing, construction and services sectors. Home Minister Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin said both his ministry and the Human Resources Ministry reached this decision after a meeting to discuss foreign recruitment and Indonesia's freeze on supplying labour to Malaysia.
Kita juga bersetuju untuk membenarkan pekerja asing daripada semua 15 negara sumber untuk bekerja dalam sektor perkilangan, pembinaan dan perkhidmatan. Inilah perkara baru yang telah pun kita teliti dan bersetuju dalam syarat tersebut.
Datuk Sri Hamzah added that to meet the needs of the industry, the meeting also agreed to allow foreign workers to be employed in the scrap metal and laundry subsectors, besides agreeing to study the need for foreign workers, including subsectors whose employment of foreign workers have been frozen. According to the Home Ministry's website, the 15 countries are India, Thailand, Cambodia, Nepal, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, Philippines, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Indonesia and Kazakhstan. At the same meeting, Datuk Sri Hamzah said both ministries also approved the Construction Labour Exchange Centre Berhad's proposal for the firm to fully manage the entry of foreign workers of more than 100 people for the construction sector in accordance with the Construction Industry Development Board Act. In other news, Datuk Sri Hamzah said talks between Malaysia and Indonesia to resolve the domestic worker conundrum are ongoing, with a resolution of the issue expected in the coming days. He said the Immigration Department and the Human Resources Ministry are currently in discussions with Indonesia to resolve certain misunderstandings surrounding the issue.
Betul lah one channel system. Tapi apa yang kita juga ada dalam perjanjian tersebut, segala perkara yang ada timbul kekhilafan tidak patut dibawa ke pihak media. Itu juga ada. Jadi saya tak payahlah sebut, itu biar kita bincang.
When asked when discussions with Indonesia would take place, Datuk Sri Hamzah assured that talks were already underway and some fine-tuning was still required before any official announcements could be made. Last week, Indonesia issued a temporary freeze on the sending of migrant workers into Malaysia. It is understood that Indonesia was not satisfied with Malaysia's continuous usage of the system-made online SMO recruitment method to hire maids. Both countries had agreed to only use the one-channel system OCS through a memorandum of understanding signed in April. The price of cooking oil will go down by at least 10%. Special Task Force on Jihad Against Inflation Chairman Tan Sri Anwar Musa said manufacturers are expected to heed this advice from the government, now that the market price for crude palm oil had gone down.
Tadi kita perlukan kerjasama. Dan kita mesti berlaku adil. Sewaktu minyak naik, kita cepat sekali menaikkan harga dengan memberikan alasan pada kerajaan kerana harga minyak naik. Jadi sekarang apabila harga minyak turun, saya tak nak tengok industri memberikan signal yang salah kepada rakyat.
Speaking to the media in Parliament on Monday, Tan Sri Anwar, who is the Communications and Multimedia Minister, also said that bottled cooking oil was not being subsidised and therefore there was no price control being enforced. The subsidy for bottled cooking oil was removed starting June 30th, while the subsidy for the 1 kilogram cooking oil in polybags had remained. The Prime Minister told the Dewan Rakyat on Monday that the government has suffered a massive loss due to untargeted subsidies. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said all quarters were enjoying subsidies which are meant for a more deserving group, which is the poor. As such, the government is now finding a suitable mechanism to implement targeted subsidies.
Bermula daripada beberapa kajian dah. Tapi sampai sekarang masih belum boleh dilaksanakan. Dan kajian hari ini juga telah pun dan sedang merangka subsidi bersasar tersebut. Tetapi mekanismenya supaya tidak ada yang tercicir, tidak ada yang tertinggal. Jadi sedang mencari mekanisme yang sesuai supaya semua yang berhak mendapat subsidi akan mendapat subsidi.
The Prime Minister added that the government is also in the midst of combating smuggling activities involving subsidized items such as cooking oil at the industrial level and at the national borders. He said the authorities would also conduct audits on manufacturers and get detailed information on their buyers. The subsidies given by the government, according to the Prime Minister, had also caused the country's inflation rate to be at 2.8%.
Saya kira paling rendah di Asia Tenggara dan juga mungkin seluruh dunia. Inflasi kita kekal pada 2.8%. Dan jika subsidi tidak diberikan, inflasi mungkin meningkat kepada 8 hingga 11%. Saya bandingkan dengan negara lain. Negara jiran kita, Thailand, 7.7% inflasi. Singapura, 5.6%. Indonesia, 4.4%. Negara lain yang besar, UK, United Kingdom, 9.1%. USA, 9.1%. EU, 8.6%. Maknanya kerajaan berbelanja lebih daripada 77 bilion bagi memastikan rakyat tidak terkesan teruk akibat daripada kenaikan harga barang yang berlaku di seluruh dunia.
He said, apart from the subsidies, the government had also given cash assistance through the Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia, with those in a B40 group receiving a maximum of RM2,600 per year. Some 145,000 heads of households nationwide have been categorized as hardcore poor, compared with 44,829 recorded in 2020. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Economy, Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohamad, said in order to address the situation, the government has implemented a program to end hardcore poverty by 2025. He said the Keluarga Malaysia Hardcore Poor Eradication Program, BMTKM, is aimed at assisting existing hardcore poor eradication programs to tackle the issue of poverty across ethnic lines and would be closely monitored at the district and branch levels.
BMTKM akan laksanakan di 1,000 lokaliti dalam tempoh 3 tahun 6 bulan. Fasa pertama melibatkan 80 lokaliti sudah pun bermula. Program yang akan laksanakanlah untuk meningkatkan pendapatan yang merangkumi projek-projek pertanian, penternakan, usahawan, pemasaran serta pembangunan minda dan motivasi. Anggaran pendapatan tambahan adalah kira-kira 300 hingga RM1,000 sebulan.
Datuk Sri Mustafa cited an example under the program involving 35 hardcore poor families in Sabak Bernam, Kampung Sungai Lias, in economic activities with the help of RM340,000 in allocations. He said this during the question and answer session in Parliament in reply to a question from Sabak Bernam MP, Datuk Muhammad Fasiah Muhammad Fakih, on the number of people categorized as hardcore poor from 2020 to date and the government's measures to eradicate hardcore poverty. The flooding in several villages in Baling Kedah earlier this month was caused by a reservoir built on the Musangking durian plantation at Gunung Inas, which had burst. This was confirmed by Environment and Water Minister Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man, adding that the cause of the floods was determined following studies conducted by his ministry.
Kajian yang dibuat oleh pihak Kementerian Alam Sekitar dan Air berhubung dengan punca-punca berlakunya banjir ataupun banjir kepala air yang berlaku di Baling baru-baru ini, mendapati bahawa beberapa kemungkinan yang berlaku sebab kadar hujan yang turun tidaklah terlebat. Kalau kita lihat, kadar ialah hanya sekadar 40 mm, manakala stesen Kampung Ibu merekodkan 36 mm sahaja. Tapi dia mungkin berpunca daripada kolam takungan yang dibina di atas kawasan-kawasan pertanian tersebut yang mungkin pecah. Dan kita dapati kajian yang dibuat di peringkat awal mendapati ada satu kolam takungan yang pecah yang memungkinkan berlakunya banjir kepala air yang berlaku.
He was answering a supplementary question from Jelutong MP RSN Rea in the Dewan Rakyat on Monday on the recent floods in Kupang, Kedah. Dato Sri Tuan Ibrahim said the government had approved 6 projects to prevent floods from recurring, including implementing a flood mitigation plan in 2 phases with an allocation of 175 million ringgit. He said the government would also build 2 sabo dams costing 20 million ringgit to reduce the risk of debris flow, apart from deepening the river and repairing the bridge with an allocation of 6 million ringgit. Meanwhile, the Kedah state government will decide on the next course of action over the Musang King plantation on Gunung Inas. Menteri Besar Dato Sri Muhammad Sanusi Matnor said the state government would hold a discussion with the relevant departments and agencies on the matter.
Yalah, kalau satu kolam sebesar itu airnya sampai 42 kampung, besar mana kolam tu? Itu kena ya, we have to think first. Besar mana kolam? Kalau hujan tak ada, hujan tak lebat. Kolam tu besar mana? Limpahan air sebanyak tu, bawa tanah pasir sebanyak tu, masuk dalam rumah sebanyak tu, 17 rumah hanyut. Besar mana kolam tu?
The area was previously approved for land clearing to plant timber latex clone or TLC, a rubber tree variety harvested for latex and timber, but was later converted to Musang King durian by the previous state administration. Dato Sri Muhammad Sanusi said amongst the main issues to be decided by the state government is the type of crop to be planted in Gunung Inas, as well as who should be responsible for carrying out the replanting. The Media Prima Berhad MPB senior management team on Monday paid a courtesy call on Pahang Menteri Besar Dato Sri Wan Rosdi Wan Ismail at his office at Wisma Sri Pahang. The visit, which lasted about an hour, was led by MPB Group Chairman Dato Sri Dr. Syed Hussein Al-Junid. Dato Sri Wan Rosdi expressed his gratitude to the MPB delegation, saying their meeting was fruitful and both the state government and MPB had discussed a wide range of topics. In this meeting, the state government and MPB also discussed various aspects, especially cooperation in information distribution.
Mungkin saluran-saluran tertentu ataupun berita-berita tertentu yang tidak akses kepada rakyat boleh diakses melalui media prima. Kerana kita tahu sekarang ni banyak sangat channel, ya, terutama media sosial sendiri. Kita ada WhatsApp, kita ada Facebook, kita ada IG, kita ada TikTok. Tapi sebenarnya dia belum sampai ke maksimum yang kita nak pada rakyat untuk mengetahui dengan sebenarnya berita yang kita ingin sampaikan.
Describing the meeting with Dato Sri Wan Rosdi as successful, Dato Sri Syed Hussein said MPB was prepared to assist the Pahang government to promote its various tourism attractions and the manufacturing sector.
Kita juga melihat di Pahang ini terdapat juga banyak company-company multinasional yang berada di sini yang telah menyumbang kepada dalam segi ekonomi kepada kerajaan Pahang dan juga kepada kerajaan Malaysia. Dan benda-benda ini sebelum ini tak di-highlightkan. Dan insya-Allah di dalam perbincangan yang kita bincang tadi, kita tengok di area yang kita dapat kita dapat wawarkan kepada rakyat negeri Pahang dan juga rakyat negeri Malaysia.
Meanwhile, Dato Sri Syed Hussein also said MPB had invited Dato Sri Wan Rosdi to visit Sri Pentas. The latter had agreed to lead the Pahang government for a visit where they will continue to look into efforts to boost their collaboration. Others in the MPB entourage included MPB Omnia Chief Operations Officer Muhammad Effendi Omar, Media Prima Television Network's Deputy Group Editor for News and Current Affairs Ashari Muhyiddin, and MDB Group General Manager, Group Chairman Office, Azlan Abdul Aziz. Also present during the meeting was Pahang State Secretary, Dato Sri Dr. Salihuddin Ishak. More local news later in the bulletin, but first, after this breather, rebels claim responsibility for deadly ambush of 10 in Papua. Stay with us. Welcome back. Separatists in Indonesia's restive eastern province of Papua have claimed responsibility on Monday for the killing of 10 people over the weekend, accusing the victims of being spies for the government in Jakarta. Authorities said the incident occurred when gunmen and attackers armed with sharp weapons had ambushed a truck of traders transporting goods through a remote highland area on Saturday. The West Papua National Liberation Army, the military wing of Papua's main separatist group, said they shot dead the civilians as they believe they were Jakarta's spies disguised as workers. The group also warned Indonesian immigrants from other islands to leave the restive region and threatened to kill them if they ignored the warning. Rebels in Papua, who have waged a fierce insurgency against Indonesian security forces for decades, have stepped up attacks recently targeting workers they accuse of links to the state. Sri Lanka's acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Monday announced that the country had almost concluded negotiations with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) a day after he declared a state of emergency in the island nation. In a statement, his office said discussions for assistance with foreign countries were also progressing. The statement came after Wickremesinghe gazetted orders late on Sunday for a state of emergency in the crisis-hit country in an effort to head off unrest ahead of a vote in Parliament later this week to elect a new president. Sri Lanka's beleaguered leaders have imposed a state of emergency several times since April, when public protests took hold against the government's handling of a deepening economic crisis and a persistent shortage of essentials. Britain on Monday braced for another day of soaring temperatures, with predictions that the country could see its hottest day in history. It was reported that the mercury was set to rise to highs of 38 degrees Celsius in London, as the heat wave that has been building since last week showed no let-up. But the country's meteorological agency, the Met Office, said temperatures could get even hotter on Tuesday, breaching the 40 degrees Celsius mark for the first time following Monday night's very oppressive temperature. The Met Office last week issued its first ever red extreme heat warning for parts of central, northern, eastern and southeast England. Britain's current record temperature stands at 38.7 degrees Celsius, which has reached at the Cambridge Botanic Garden in eastern England on July 25th in 2019. On to sports. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce claimed an astonishing fifth World 100 metres title when she clocked 10.67 seconds to edge Shericka Jackson and Elaine Thompson-Herah in a brilliant Jamaican clean sweep. Fraser-Pryce got her usual superb start and held her form as fast-finishing Jackson clocked a personal best at 10.73 for silver, and Thompson-Herah took bronze with 10.81. No nation had completed a medal sweep in the women's 100 metres at the Worlds, though Jamaica did it at last year's Olympics via the same three athletes and also in 2008. Dina Asher-Smith, silver medalist in 2019, matched her British record of 10.83 in lane 8 for fourth. In earlier action, Ethiopia's Tamirat Tola won the men's marathon at the World Athletics Championships in dominant fashion, forging powerful clear around 34 kilometers to come home solo to take gold in a championship record 2 hours, 5 minutes and 37 seconds. Over a minute back, Mosine Jirimiu made it an Ethiopian 1-2 with a second successive silver, while Belgium's Somalia-born Bashir Abdi matched his bronze from the Tokyo Olympics. In football, Evergreen AC Milan striker Zlatan Ibrahimovic will stay at the Serie A champions beyond his 41st birthday after agreeing a one-year contract extension the club set on Monday. Now, details of the contract were not released, but a source close to the deal said the Swede had accepted a reduced salary given he will be unable to play until 2023 after undergoing surgery on his left knee in May. The club said Ibrahimovic will continue to wear the number 11 shirt. Ibrahimovic, Sweden's all-time top scorer with 62 goals, returned to his former club Milan in January of 2020 after leaving Major League Soccer team LA Galaxy. Although his second stint at the Italian side has been riddled with injuries, Ibrahimovic has made 74 appearances and scored 36 goals in all competitions since his return, helping Milan win their first Serie A title in 11 years last term. After the break, government to come up with new mechanisms to avoid Hajj scams. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The government is planning to come up with new mechanisms for future Hajj seasons to ensure pilgrims are no longer deceived by dubious offers or fall prey to Hajj package scams. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Ahmad Marzouk Sha'ari, said that detailed information on the new mechanism would be made known once discussions are held with agencies under the Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry.
Kerana visa haji Furoda ini sangat limited. Jadi kalau nasihat saya kepada jemaah akan datang, kalau ada nampak tawaran haji visa Furoda yang begitu terbuka, sangat luar biasa. Kita kena hati-hati.
He added that the government welcomes the move by the Saudi Arabian government to provide Furada visas as an added value to the country's Hajj management, but said it was unfortunate that certain parties have instead taken advantage of the situation. He was speaking to the media during a press conference at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on Monday morning after welcoming the first group of 298 pilgrims who returned safely to Malaysia after performing the Hajj. In other news, 5 individuals believed to be involved in the incident where nearly 400 pilgrims were stranded at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA, on July the 7th, were remanded at the Johor Bahru Magistrates Court on Monday. The remand order for 3 days was allowed by Magistrate Muhammad Zulhilmi Ibrahim after an application was submitted by the police on Monday morning. Johor Police Chief Datuk Kamarul Zaman Mamat said the 5 individuals were remanded to assist in the investigation into the Hajj package fraud case. He said Johor Police have received 4 reports involving prospective pilgrims who were deceived by the travel agency's Furada visa offer. On July the 9th, police arrested 5 individuals, including the owner of a travel agency believed to be involved in the case, where 380 individuals being offered Hajj packages were stranded at KLIA. And that wraps up Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look at Indonesia organising the Police Expo 2022 in Banda Aceh as part of their country's socialisation programme, during which police weapons and operational equipment were exhibited. With that, I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.